Ghibli has a style. Van Gogh has a style. Bongo Cat has a style. And by the end of this video, you'll have all the tools needed to find your style too.
Hey, it's Chie. Welcome to my channel. When I was looking to transition from being an airline pilot and wanting to pursue a full-time artist position, I got hung up on this question for a really long time. What is my art style? I had no idea how to find this or where to look, where to even begin, but over time I did discover a 2D style that I liked and enjoy making things with. I wanted to share my journey in finding my own style, broken down into these steps in hopes to help anyone who is stuck on this very same question. What is my art style? Step 1. Come up with constraints. Constraints can help you get a better idea of the purpose of a particular project. And it also gives us a unique perspective to share our creation with the world. You narrow down the field in which you can pick from, any constraints that you can put on, so that you're not choosing from everything. That is overwhelming. By placing constraints on the project, in this case, picking your style, you can overcome choice paralysis. This is a real thing. There's too many choices, you don't know what to pick, so you don't do any of it. Place constraints so that we can move forward. A constraint might look like what kind of genre you might want to go into, or color palette constraints. If it's for a comic book, it might be that it has to be repeatable and not too detailed. You can also scroll through your liked pages on whatever you collect your things, ArtStation, Pinterest, Instagram, all those things. You can go there and maybe see what you tend to be gravitated towards and then place some constraints from there as well. In my case, it was actually for Native Shark that I stumbled across my style. So it was kind of a company constraint that was placed on it. We were going for friendly. It had to be ocean themed because of the shark part, not too detailed so that I can produce on the higher side. A constraint can also be what not to do. So in my case, we didn't want to go full anime style or manga style because we didn't want to narrow ourselves into just Japanese appealing audience. Stealing mentioned in this video is not talking about plagiarism. Plagiarism is bad. This book, highly recommend. There are a whole bunch of videos on summaries if you don't have the book. Art is Theft by Pablo Picasso. Right there. First page. Anyway, nothing is original. Everything is a mix and match of a whole bunch of other stuff that's already out there. That's what stealing mentioned in this video is going to be referencing. Step 2. Research time. Okay, so now you take the constraints that you came up with and then artists that might fit into that field, you're gonna go searching. You can go searching into any of these places that have art on them. So for me, that was these artists that I will record later. These were the artists that I referenced for finding my style. So there's 5 of them. Ovopak, Bonwood, Aura, Joyce, and Gaston. These were the artists I picked out that I thought would go well with the constraints that I picked in the first step. They were a little bit more simple to look at visually, very organic feeling, and I wanted to create an art style that uses outlines, friendly, approachable vibes, if that makes any sense. Shoot for somewhere between 3 and 5. No less than 3, because if you go less than 3, you're going to run into the problem of looking like that 1 or 2 particular artists. You're going to maybe end up kind of copying them a little bit more so than borrowing or stealing parts of their art. And if we're adding more than 5, we run into the same problem of too many options, paralyzed, not executing. Remember, constraints are good in this case. Step 3. Picking the rules. It's kind of like making the rule book for your style. So maybe it's the lighting from this artist, maybe it's the brush strokes, colors that they use, line weights that they draw their lines in, shape language, themes. You're gonna pick the parts that you like. Let's break down what I stole from these artists. I stole from Ovopak. I was really interested in these really fun lines that happen for texturing here, as well as the background kind of fading out. There's still this line work. I don't know if you can see this, but there's this a little bit more saturated outline. This is like a rest space for the eyes, but there's still something going on in the background. Color usage. So this tree is mainly made up of like a green color, but then there's also this like rusty red type color to add a little bit more interest. Same thing back here as well. So
color usage, a little bit more interest other than just the single local color, and then the line work. For Fawnwood, it's kind of hashed look, I think I was leaning towards, and then also blending of colors going on with the local colors. And up here, kind of the subdued red on top of this blue. This was the local color, and then the accent color would take on that local color a little bit too, so that it doesn't look like this, like yelling in your face. I also really like these dots going on, particle effect in 2D. So I took those away from Fawnwood. Cora, I really like her not too saturated color choices, use of like stray penmanship. Stray particles, stray, I don't know, that kind of play with the silhouette to add a little bit more texture to them, like that. And then this kind of harsh shadow versus not shadowed parts. This harsh line that goes on in her art, I also took that. This shows up a lot when I do mirrors or windows. This shows up a lot. Joyce, oh my goodness, this is one of my favorite pieces by them. But you see kind of this broken up shadow pieces and also the highlights. I am a huge fan of that. I also really like the shape language that goes on in their art. This really organic feeling of the lines. It's very deliberate, organic lines. Oh, also here, these shadow lines, kind of like these ones. I also took that too. And then the last one, Gaston. Okay, so we've been talking about these lines, right? It's kind of a theme that's going on, but the thing that was most interesting about their line work was these broken up parts. So like this isn't connected, right? So these parts, a little bit more saturated shadow parts as well, playing with colored shadows, as well as these saturated light and shadow contact points. Those were also really fun to explore. I took that as well. Overall color choices in their art is amazing too. Like they'll have kind of these color palettes that they'll put sometimes. Those were also fun to see. Once you're done getting up and personal into the art from the artist that you picked, the elements you really like that resonates with you and want to incorporate into your style, you're going to make a list of all of these in a safe place. Actually write them out. You'll be referencing these rules in the last stage of creating your own style, which is to create your pieces. You'll be referencing this list of rules that you come up with to create the first few versions of your art style pieces. So make them legible. So those were the key things that I took away from these 5 artists to create my own style. Step 4, last step, is to create art with your new style. It might take a couple tries to experiment with what you're mixing, what you're not mixing, maybe omitting some of these things, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. And then once you're happy with it, you have a style. In order for us to develop our style though, you can't just decide and then not do it. You gotta sit down, create your style, and then keep working on it. But here are some examples of what my art looks like. You can kind of see here, there's broken up line, dot, line thing going on kind of all the way through. And then also with the highlighting background is going on, broken up lines. Also playing with the local colors, a little bit subdued red on top of that green so that it blends a little bit better together. Here's a piece I did for a website. I really enjoyed blending these colors together. Even though they're all blue, right? There's a blue, oh, that's red. There's a blue here, there's a blue here, there. It's really fun to embed different hues of the local color to add variation. Why is this on opacity? This local color wood going into this blue color. Also playing around with the highlight as well as the change of the lines being affected by light shining on it. This one I was exploring with the gradient effect. So all of my art is usually kind of this solidified, there's a clear line between the colors that are used. But I did notice that some of the artists that I did list had kind of a gradient effect going on. These are kind of more flat colored, this one or even this one. I also did some profile edges. What are these called? Profile borders. But yeah, you can see here that these actually are only made up of 4 colors plus the outline, limiting the color palette so that it looked like the same metal throughout, and the local color doesn't actually change that much on this one because it was going to be viewed very, very far away. So if I added too much detail, then it wouldn't actually pop at all. Broken up shadow parts, reflective parts. This was also really fun. They're kind of ocean themed as well, with the bubbles coming up and kind of like a liquid, organic feeling going on. Picking an art style does not excuse you from staying stagnant. You gotta keep learning in order for you to improve your art. Yeah. I hope this was helpful in some way. You're not alone in thinking that finding a style is hard. I went through countless months of thinking that I could never find a style, and looking at Instagram or ArtStation was kind of intimidating in that these artists had their lives and their styles and their art careers all figured out already. Why don't I? But I've also discovered that indecision is what keeps you stagnant and in the same place. And if the indecision continues, then 2 years, 5 years from now, I was going to be at the same place, wondering about the same questions. And the hardest thing to do is to take that first step. And I hope that this video was helpful for you to take the first step, put the pencil to the paper, try to explore some styles, try to explore what you like and what you don't like, and create something. When we choose to do something and commit, that's when we start moving forward. Even if it feels pointless or scary, picking up that stylus, opening up that app, and making our mark is the single thing that gets us closer to what we want. So take a deep breath and let's do this. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. If you want to see, what do you want to see? If you want to see more videos about systemizing your creativity to optimize your growth, subscribe. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or comments, and I will see you in the next one.